So who was your teacher for that? Dominique.
Dominique and Russell.
Dominique, where's Dominique? I saw her.
And Russell is
Dominique is here and Russell is here. But also credit to the hard work of... Okay. So who is now raising the scroll?
I can raise it as I'm here.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay.
Saves work.
So you can roll it a bit, because otherwise it's a brick. And then you go and sit over there.
So you want me to raise it and then?
Yeah, okay.
Could you
Please stand.
Could you help me, please?
Please be seated. So we're just going to wait a moment for the scroll to be it's parchment, it's not paper, it's parchment. And of course it has to be a kosher animal. We can't have pork skin for our scrolls. So I don't know I'm not a specialist in animal skins, of course, but and it takes about a year to write a complete scroll. And they are probably the most precious items we have in the synagogue. And it's very expensive as well. So we don't talk about money on Shabbat, but it's probably in the region of £90,000 a scroll like that. And I'm not sure if is it one of the Czech scroll, or I'm not sure because there's nothing. Okay, yeah. So we host here 3 scrolls that come from Czechoslovakia. So when the Germans invaded Czechoslovakia, of course they deported most of the Jewish community, and they gathered all the scrolls, all the religious items, and they kept them in a place. And after the war, they were rescued by a guy from London. I can't remember his name now. So he brought them to Westminster Synagogue, and he raised funds, about 1,500 scrolls. He raised funds to clean them, to write, to repair them, and then they were offered to communities around the world. And I don't know why we're so lucky. We have 3 of them. We have 3 Czech scrolls here with us. Now it's time for you, Alex, to share with us your word of Torah, your Dvar Torah. Yeah, you stand here. I'm going to sit here, and if I say, breathe, don't stop, just breathe. Okay. So you start.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
My Torah portion is from the book of Genesis. It is called in Hebrew Vayeshev, and starts with these words. And Jacob lived in a land where his father was a stranger. It is also the beginning of the story of Joseph, one of Jacob's sons. In the passage I have just read for you, we learn that Jacob preferred Joseph over all his other children, which created jealousy among the siblings. Joseph had a first dream. He and his brothers were binding sheaves in the fields, and his sheaves stood upright, while his brothers' sheaves stood around and bowed down before Joseph. For him, it meant that he would have dominion over his brothers, and of course, they did not like this idea. He had another dream where he saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed down before him too, another reason for his brothers to dislike him. If I asked you all here today about Joseph at the beginning of the story, you might have said the key themes were about dreams or jealousy. However, today I have based my Dvar Torah on motivations and morals of Joseph and how it relates to my life and the world we live in today. Joseph was the youngest child until Benjamin, and the son of his father's old age. Rachel, Joseph's mother, was Jacob's favorite wife, as he had waited 14 years to marry her. Jacob made no secret that Joseph was his favorite child, and this was a mistake. Joseph grew up knowing that he was special, and he did tell tales on his brothers. He may have felt like this was a good way to get attention, being the smallest. It might also have been encouraged by his parents. There were other wives, and Rachel might have wanted the other wives to see the attention was showered upon Joseph by herself and Jacob. It was no wonder that Joseph's brothers began to hate him. When Joseph told his brothers about his dreams, this would have aggravated the brothers, as not only did he tell tales on him, but he was now telling them that he would have authority over them when he was an adult. We know that the brothers threw Joseph into a pit to sell him as a slave to the Ishmaelites. The older brother, Reuben, would not let the others kill Joseph and planned to return to the pit and set him free. This tells us that Reuben may have loved Joseph in some way, but felt that he needed to support the majority of the brothers rather than the minority of Joseph. It was a brutal thing to do, but we need to put this into the context of the time when hierarchy was more important in a family than it is today. So far, I have painted Joseph in a negative light as a son who did not respect his brothers and did not seem to want to lead a peaceful existence. However, we know that Joseph did want to be loved by them. On one occasion, he travelled all the way to Shechem to help with the flock, but he couldn't find them. If we think about the present day, there are countless examples of people following the crowd in a negative sense and not doing the right thing. Although Reuben planned to do the right thing, he was still part of the plan to hurt and, if not, kill Joseph. However, it is important to have faith in humanity and hope that people will not stand by and watch others suffering, but will help others who are in need. As a young person, I try and do the right thing in my life. I try and make small differences where I can, and that starts with the love I have for my family, supporting my friends at school, and taking an active role in school charity events. What I have learnt from my family and from my faith is that in the future it will be wonderful to say that I was making a substantial difference in society, for example, getting a job as a human rights lawyer. I do not want to be a bystander when things go wrong in society, and I hope to be able to make a positive contribution. Returning to the theme of Joseph, he grew as a person, and whilst not the kindest of brothers as a young man, he grew through his life experiences and became a kind and wise advisor to the Pharaoh, making a difference in the wider world, but also returning to his family with love. My mitzvah today is the beginning of my journey to make a difference, and thank you all for coming.
Well done. Mazel tov. Yeah, you can applaud. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, so you have a few moments of respite. Who is doing the... Yeah, you can go and start. Yes. So the Haftarah is now read.
We praise you, Eternal One, our God, Sovereign of the universe. You inspired faithful prophets and took pleasure in the word they spoke in truth. We praise you, O God, for the gift of Torah, your servant Moses, your people Israel, and the prophets of truth and righteousness. The young Samuel was in the service of the Eternal under Eli. In those days, the words of the Eternal were rare. Prophecy was not widespread. One day, Eli was asleep in his usual place. His eyes had begun to fail. He could barely see. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was sleeping in the temple of the Eternal, where the ark of God was. The Eternal called out to Samuel, and he answered, "Here I am." He ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." But Eli replied, "I didn't call you, go back to sleep." So Samuel went back and lay down. Again the Eternal called, "Samuel." Samuel rose and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." But he replied, "I didn't call you, my son, go back to sleep." Now Samuel had not yet experienced the Eternal. The word of the Eternal had not yet been revealed to him. The Eternal called Samuel again, a third time. And he rose and he went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." And Eli understood that the Eternal was calling the boy. And Eli said to Samuel, "Go, lie down. If you are called again, you speak, 'Eternal,' for your servant is listening." And Samuel went to his place and lay down. The Eternal came, stood there, and God called as before, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel answered, "Speak, for your servant is listening." The Eternal said to Samuel, "I'm going to do to Israel such a thing that both ears of anyone who hears it will tingle. In that day I will fulfill against Eli all that I said about his house. from beginning to end, and to declare to him that they sentenced his house to endless punishment for iniquities he knew about, how his sons committed sacrilege at will. He did not rebuke them. As surely I swear concerning the house of Eli, that the iniquity of the house of Eli will never be expiated by sacrifice or offering. Samuel lay there until morning, and then he opened the door of the house of the Eternal. Samuel was afraid to report the vision to Eli. But Eli summoned Samuel and said, "Samuel, my son?" And he answered, "Here I am." And Eli asked, "What did God say to you? Keep nothing from me. Thus and more may God do to you if you keep from me a single word that God said to you." Samuel then told him everything. "Withhold nothing from me." And Eli said, "God is the Eternal. God will do what God deems right." We praise you, Eternal One, our God, sovereign of the universe. You have been our source of strength and righteousness throughout the ages, the faithful God, whose word is deed, whose every word is true and just.
Please stand. Eternal God, whose dominion has embraced the universe, we ask your blessing for all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so there may be a force for righteousness and peace in life of humanity.
May the one who blessed our ancestors bless all our brothers and sisters of the house of Israel who entered synagogues to pray and to give aid to those in need. May the Holy One, to whom all praise is due, hear their prayers and help them fulfill their aspirations for good.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessings to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream, to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim.
I'm going to call now the bat mitzvah to join me. Natasha, would you mind coming as well? And maybe Florence as well, because it's a family thing, so we need the whole family. So, David, can you give the... Yeah, I think past 2. So you've got something ready.
Well, yes, this morning on the kitchen table.
Nobody needs to know that. So we're on page 22.
Gratefully, we give thanks for the joyous privilege of seeing our daughter attain this milestone. On this day, cherished dreams and hopes are fulfilled. On this day, new dreams and new hopes are born. We give thanks for the wondrous privilege of seeing our daughter grow day by day, week by week, year by year. For the health and strength she has been given, for the mind and spirit with which she has been endowed, for her ability to elicit and return love, for all of these precious gifts, we give thanks.
Okay, I'll say a few words and then you read the blessing afterwards, okay? Okay, so we just wanted to say, from Natasha and myself, we're just so proud of you. Oh, it's the wrong daughter. she always gets it against the heart. We're just so proud of you. You've brought us so much joy. You've brought us so much joy throughout our life. I was crying when you read the Shema. It meant so much to me on a personal level to see those, to say those sacred words. As many of you know in this room, Alexandria and Florence were named in an oral tradition to tell the journey of our family. Our family has come from Alexandria to Switzerland, to England.
You can sit, actually.
You can all sit,
sit. Yeah.
Has come, But the family has had to travel, so they were named after Alexandria, where my father and grandfather were born, and prior to that the family came came from Italy and from Florence. If we'd had more children, we'd have had to call them Cadiz, we'd have had to call them Corfu, Salamanca.
I think it's a good
Various Greek islands, ultimately back to Jerusalem and back, as we heard today, into Egypt. So there's 4,000 years of travelling the world, of travelling the Mediterranean, to continue to practice our faith, to continue to practice our heritage. And I'm so proud, Alex, that today you chose to continue that tradition. I've got a few more words if I can say them. So, she, that for me and for all of us in the family is a special thing that, the 400 years. We're Coens. We come from Moses and from Aaron. We've practiced and given services, and Alex, in the tradition of your ancestors, you have given a fantastic service today. So we are so proud. All of you who know Alex also, this is an amazing day. She is such a resilient, kind-hearted and calm presence. Anyone who knows her knows that she is never flustered. She's always kind, only kind words for people. She had to fight for her life when she was born, the first couple of weeks, as you all know. She's had numerous visits to Gosh and the hospitals, but she's always stayed good-natured and happy. And that inner resilience and skill has given her much strength in the last few weeks, because I have to say that her mum and dad were not the most organised people, shall we say.
Really?
in getting the mitzvah to you today. I think the service was only printed yesterday. But even though she only had a couple of months to prepare, and most people take 1 or 2 years to get ready for this day, Alex was always the calm one. She was always the one that said, Daddy, I'm going to do this. I want to do this and I will do this. I will do it. So it's an amazing achievement what you did, considering your parents' disorganisation. And I would like to thank you, but I want to also thank Russell, Dominique, and I'd like to thank Carolyn, who's in the other room, and the Rabbi for getting you to this point and working with you to make what was for us an incredibly proud moment. The only other thing I really want to say, and again, anyone who knows her will know this, she is truly kind-hearted, and she is truly a reflective thinker. She is a moral philosopher of the future, for sure. When I walk with her every day, she is looking to do a mitzvah. She is looking to do a kind act. She wants every day in her actions to make the world a better place. And constantly discussing the injustices and the social justices of the world. It's been a joy. If you can say COVID has been a joy, there has been a joy spending many hours with my daughter talking about big and important things, and she has always impressed me. And so I think today is a beautiful capping off of her thinking, and I hope her continued thinking. Her faith is her moral compass that defines and helps her make order in the life. And I have no doubt, Alec, that you will make a huge difference to this world. Do you want to say? I think I'm crying too much.
I've got to finish this off. I've got to put my specs on now. All right, okay. Okay. So, may she be protected on this special day and every day. Grant her a growing understanding of the true significance of this occasion and a deepening loyalty to everything that it represents. May the teachings of our heritage guide her throughout her life, and may she lead a life worthy of blessing. Amen.
Amen.
Natasha's going to read a poem. She's adapted.
Oh yes.
And
For
also
my,
crying.
I was going to say, for my friends who know me from the wedding, there's always an adapted poem. So luckily you guys hadn't got to read it this time. So this is for you, sweetheart. Alexandria, I wish you such a happy life that's jam-packed full of fun, adventures, friendships, laughter, love, and holidays in the sun. I wish you a courageous life with no dreams left untried, so that whichever path you take, you'll always walk with pride. I wish an accomplished life that celebrates your wins. I also wish you the equal joy of simply joining in. But most of all, my darling girl, I wish for you to be kind and true. You are an amazing daughter, and we're proud of you.
We are. So proud.
Yeah.
Right,
I held
you
it
can get a
together.
hug too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Alex, come here. Your dad was talking about the Cohen lineage, so it goes back to Moses and his brother Aaron. So instead of reading the blessing that is in the booklet, I'm going to just read the blessing that Aaron was commanded to say when he blessed the children of Israel. And this is what Aaron said. Come here. Yevarech Adonai ve'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Yaher Adonai panav elecha v'choneka. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. And let us say, Amen. So you've got also your bits, you know that. So we are on page 22.
In the presence of this congregation, which represents the Jewish people all over the world, I give thanks for what I have learned in my Jewish heritage and promise to go on studying it in the years ahead. So may I come to understand ever more deeply and carry out more fully the duties that flow from it. I think of all those who in past ages have preserved the Jewish faith and declared their loyalty to it as I do today. I thank my parents and my family, my teachers and my friends, and all who have helped me reach this day. And I pray that I may be guided and kept strong, so that I may fulfill the high hopes that rest on me. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. So Florence and Alex, I'm going to ask you to open the ark. Please, can you stand? We are on page 22. Yes. כי לקחתו נתתי לכם תורתי אל תעזובו. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה בתומכי המיושר, דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה. שלום. Please. Yeah, you can go now. You're finished. You can just sit. Please sit down and relax. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this moment with us. I think it's a privilege for a community to be able to be in families' life like that. And thank you for your words. And I also want to say thank you for your tears, because they say so much about the love that is in your family. And it's just great to see. I mean, great to see. I don't know if it's great to see people crying, but it's great to see that so much love in your family. So I have a question for you. How well do you get along with your siblings? So it's a question for you, Alex, but it's also a question for all of us who have sisters and brothers. So the short answer is, it's complicated. Always. The long answer is in this parasha, as you explained us earlier. Chapter 37 of the book of Genesis begins a long narrative that stages one son of Jacob, Joseph, until the end of the book of Genesis. He is Jacob's penultimate son, the one he had with his beloved wife Rachel, as will be the next one, Benjamin. There is already a strong bond between Jacob and Joseph because of the mother. Remember, Jacob had 2 wives and 2 maid servants. I don't know how to say this in another way in English. Anyway, he had four mothers. The Torah says that Joseph is Ben Zekunim, the son that Jacob had in his old age. Parents who have more than one children know that the firstborn is the one with whom we learn to be parents. The one with whom we make the biggest mistakes. When the next child arrives, can you smile? I mean, shared experience, guys. When the next child arrives, we already have some experience, but we make other mistakes. Being parent is hard work. We learn each and every day how to parent our child with a complete human right in his or her own right. If there is one mistake that parents shouldn't do, is to show any preference to one child over the other. Mind you, however, how hard you try, each child believes that parents prefer the other. That's kind of, yes, exactly. How many times have I heard with my daughters as well, yeah, you love my, okay, fine. You can't win. But Jacob is unapologetically favoring Joseph over his other sons. He makes for him a ketonet pasim, an ornamented tunic. I find it hard to picture an aging Jacob weaving a colorful tunic for Joseph, but the text is pretty clear about that. According to Rabbi Sforno, a 15th century Italian rabbi and Torah commentator, this ornamented tunic represents the garment that a leader wears as a sign of his social status. Has Jacob foreseen something? We know that after many tribulations, Joseph will become the prime minister of Egypt, a man so powerful that Pharaoh leaves him the keys of his kingdom. So Jacob was right. But before Joseph reached this high position in the pharaonic state, he had to go through many troubles, almost lost his life, and was estranged from his brothers. There was hatred at first, loads of hatred, as we heard in the passage. His brothers hated him for his dreams that described Joseph ruling over them. They also hated him for bad-mouthing them to their dad. But hey, Joseph was only 17, an age when you believe that you know everything, that life is according to your worldview. That's a privilege or curse of youth. When we're young, we feel all-powerful, life is ahead of us, and we embrace it with enthusiasm. And then we mature, we get stricken, we learn the hard way. This is true for Joseph, but also for his brothers. They saw, I don't know if this word is actually appropriate from the Bima, but raise your hand if it's not. They saw the little bragging brat. Can you say that? You can? Okay, fine. I wasn't sure. I had other words, but this one seemed to me the less offensive. So this little brat. And they missed the larger picture that the father already saw. They are also represented as a group, the brothers, against one person, Joseph. They are not individuals yet, they are not themselves yet. Only Judah decides not to go along with his brothers, and for that, his name will be given to the larger tribe of Israel, and later on it will name our people entirely. For the other brothers, the painful start of a story is the first step of a learning curve. Let's jump now to the end of the story, or middle of the story. Joseph is prime minister of Egypt, and his brothers, chased away from their land by drought, have become migrants and beggars. Joseph recognizes him first and then reveals himself. What comes next in the Torah is a very emotional scene of reconciliation. They acknowledged the wrong they did to each other, they embraced each other, and restored love among siblings. Yes, love among siblings is not easy. It takes some maturity to lessen the ego and leave space for the other to grow. But there is another lesson that I think is particularly relevant for you, Alex. Nothing in life is written in marble, and we know that however prepared we think we are, there is always a little grain of sand in the cog. But it is also equally very important to think about what you want to do with your life. You said, Alex, that you wanted to make a difference, and you see yourself as a human rights lawyer. I applaud you. And I like to believe that preparing your bat mitzvah has strengthened your resolve. It's not an easy path. And the recent tragedy in the Channel is a reminder that human rights are still in danger. As you know, about 30 people lost their lives trying to reach our shores for a better life. The British and French governments play a game of name and shame, trying to prove that the other party is guilty. They lost sight of a real issue here, which is, why do people risk their lives, their security, to cross half of the world for a better life? With wars and climate change, the demographic pressure will only grow, and our response should not to push these people away, but to help them in their countries, but also here, and offer them a safe passage and protect them from reckless smugglers. You won't be short of work, Alex. You'll have always work because, sadly, our world is walking on its head. There are so many issues that need to be addressed. But I can already see the strong woman you are, the strong woman that emerged today on the bima. And I strongly believe that the world is a better place because of people like you. Thank you, Alex. Shabbat Shalom. So, before we finish our service, I just wanted to say a few words about what's coming next at KLS. So we have the first light of Hanukkah, which will be lit tomorrow afternoon. So Hanukkah starts tomorrow. Will you be able to play some music tomorrow?
I have no idea at the moment. Let's play it by ear, shall we?
So possibly Tommy will be here. And if not, you need to look after yourself anyway. So, and next week, next Sunday, we'll have the 8th candle of Hanukkah with our friends of the interfaith local communities. I don't know how many will come at the moment. It's quite, it's not usual time, so it's still a bit complicated. But we're aiming to have an interfaith moment with our friends from the Muslim community, the Christian community, and other people who are coming, I don't know. That's, we can't say anything for certain anymore today. And I think there's nothing pressing. Just look at the newsletter that I don't know how many hours you spend every week to prepare it, but it's such a good newsletter, so please read it. It's very comprehensive. you've got everything in it, and I don't accept the excuse, I didn't know that, because it's in the newsletter. And actually, the funny thing with computers, we know who is actually opening the newsletter or not. We can actually check, Big Brothers.
That was a trade secret.
It's
after Kiddush, I'll be opening up the Hanukkah goodies store again.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we have a Kiddush after the service, and then Sandra will open the Hanukkah store again, which is in the Mosaic room. Right, so let's conclude our service now. Page 23. And then all that has divided us will merge. And then compassion will be wedded to power. And then softness will come to a world that is harsh and unkind. And then both men and women will be gentle. And then both men and women will be strong. And then no person will be subject to another's will. And then all will be rich and free and varied. And then the greed of some will give way to the needs of the many. And then all we share equally in the earth's abundance. And then all we care for the sick and the weak and the old. And then all will nourish the young. And then all will cherish life's creatures. And then all will live in harmony with each other and the earth. And then everywhere will be called Eden once again. The day will come, the time to come. The day when God's name shall be one. All war and suffering shall be through.
When that day comes,
And on that day, I will wipe all the tears away. Sorrow and pain shall all be gone, and your name it shall be one. By your power, by your power.
let justice and righteousness flow like a stream.
Be open with young, chasing visions and dream, and what we dream shall yet come true.
When that day comes,
By your power, and on that day,
I will wipe all tears
away.
Sorrow and pain
Shall all be gone, and your name it shall be one. By your power, by your power.
They shall not hurt and destroy in your holy place. Your word shall be known to the whole human race. On their lips and their hearts will know what to do. When that day comes,
By your power, and on that day, I will wipe all the tears away. Sorrow and pain shall all be gone, and your name it shall be one. By your power,
the spear will break and the chariot burn.
the hearts of the parents to children will turn, and children to parents and all turn to you. When that day comes, by your power, and on that day, I will wipe all the tears away. Sorrow and
Pain shall all be gone. When my name it
shall be one. By your power, by your Thank you. Please stand. So at the end of the service, we remember people who passed away this time of the year in years past. And we also remember when there is a bar mitzvah, people from the family who are no longer with us. So I think you wanted to...
So my father,
Your father. So what was his name? Guido. That's a very, very nice Sephardi, Egyptian Sephardi name, Guido, yes, yeah. And on this Shabbat, we also remember Lee Hornfeld, the mother of Beverly Scheib, and John Lazarus, the husband of Betty Lazarus. Is there any other name you would like to remember. So I would like us to also keep in our prayers the people who lost their lives in the Channel on Wednesday. And we say together on page 24, יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם לעלמי עלמיה. יתברר וישתבר ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו. לעילה מן כל ביחתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. Please be seated, and we finish with Od Yavo. Oh, sorry, gosh, thank you.
There we go.
I always forget something. So this is why I'm not blaming you, because I forget things. It's not age, it's just the way my brain is wired.
All right, in fact, there's two things. One, Rebecca, my deputy chair, has reminds me, I wanted to remind you, that she is running a Hanukkah photography competition where you have to photograph your Hanukkah candles, the lighting, in however you want to, and it's going in the competition. She talks about cats and things like that also being quite a feature, and other animals, but I'm sure you can bring your own creativity to that. The deadline is 5 o'clock on the previous day, so she's running it every day of Hanukkah. So Hanukkah begins tomorrow, so the deadline for the first night is actually 5 o'clock this afternoon.
Can you bring Peppa Pig, or is it?
I'm sure that will be most favoured. The other thing I want to do is to invite Alexandria back up to the bimah. Just to wish you well done. You did an amazing job today. You led us very, very confidently, and you demonstrated what David was talking about, your calmness in front of all these people and all the people watching online as well. And I was really impressed with what you had to say in your Devar Torah. I mean, you're lucky that you know at this young age what you want to do, and it's really, really inspiring as well that you want to make a difference, not be a bystander to all the things that are wrong. So very, very well done. We wish you all the best in your future. Wonderful words as well from David, your father. That was really lovely. It's a privilege to see such a beautiful, beautiful moment today. So, on behalf of everyone in the synagogue, or your family and friends who you've made very proud today, Mazel Tov, and this is for you.
Okay.
Shalom Aleinu,
everybody stand for one last time, I promise. Our God and God of ancestors, bless us with a threefold benediction in the Torah. May God bless you and keep you. May God look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. May God reach out to you in tenderness and give you peace. And let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. And Shabbat Shalom to you who came online today. Thank you for joining us.